All right, guys, so we're getting there. We have our login logic, and then once we have a successful matching, I guess, it's not really a login just yet, it gives us a token. And that token includes a payload with the user information and all that. But this is really, it's not going to do anything for us right now because we haven't implemented Passport to actually be able to verify that token or even make any routes private. So that's what we're going to do now. So let's go to server.js, and from here we're going to bring in Passport. So we'll go right up here and say require Passport. Now Passport has a lot of different authentication options. If any of you guys have taken my Node.js Express MongoDB Dev to Deployment course on Udemy, then you know that we used the local implementation where you can just locally validate your email and or username and password. We also use Google OAuth where we could log in with a Google account. Okay, there's a lot of different sub-modules to Passport that you can use. JWT is just one of them. All right, but Passport is the main authentication module. So now what we want to do is add a little piece of middleware. We're going to put this down, let's see, right above our routes. We actually don't need this route, this hello world anymore. We can get rid of that. And let's say Passport middleware. And all we need to do here is say app.use and pass in passport.initialize, like that. And then everything else that we do in Passport, I'm going to put inside of a config file. Okay, in Passport, we use what's called a strategy. Now, for instance, when we did the local authentication in that other course, we had a local strategy. When we did Google OAuth, we had a Google strategy. Now we're going to have a JWT strategy, and that's what's going to go in this config file. So let's say require, and we haven't created the file yet, but we will. But it's going to be in config/passport.js. Okay, and then I just want to pass in Passport itself like that. Okay, and that's pretty much all we have to do in this file for now. So let's go and create that config file. So we'll go new file, passport.js, and this is where we need to basically create our strategy. So let's create a variable called JWT strategy. Actually, let me show you the documentation real quick. Let's see. Is this it? Yeah. So what we're doing is something like this. We're not going to use this code because it uses var, it uses callbacks and not arrow functions. It's not really ES6 type style, and I don't like that. But yeah, so basically we need to bring in this passport JWT.strategy and then this extract JWT. Okay, so this will enable us to extract the payload, which is the user data, and do what we want with it. We're also going to specify that we want to use a bearer token. Remember we added that bearer string before the token. We need to add the secret or key, which we have in our keys file. Let's see what else. We don't need audience or issue or anything like that. And then when we do passport.use, we pass in the new strategy with our options, and then we have a callback which will include our payload. Okay, and our payload will include the user data. Once we do that, we want to find that user and validate it. Okay, so let's basically recreate this in a I guess a better way. So we'll say JWT strategy equals require passport JWT, and remember to do dot strategy. Okay, we can, and now we want to do extract JWT. This will be passport JWT, and we want to do dot extract JWT. All right, we're also going to bring in Mongoose because we're going to be searching for the user that comes with the payload. And we want to bring in our user model as well. So for this, we can actually do this, mongoose dot model and users. Okay, now this users comes from, if we look at our model, comes from this right here, just to let you know. So if you called this something different, then use that. And then finally we want to bring in our keys because that has our secret. Okay, remember we're sending along that secret or key with the request, so we need to validate that. So we'll say require /config/keys. Okay, and then we're going to create just a empty object for options, and we want to say options.jwt form request equals extract JWT dot from, and we're going to use this one right here, from auth header as bearer token, which is a function. And then the only other option that we want to add here is the secret or key, and we'll set that to our keys file dot secret or key. All right, now we want to do module dot exports. And remember we passed in passport. That's what this is. It's just a parameter. Okay, remember in server.js we passed in right here. So this is just an arrow function, and this is a parameter. I mean, this could have parentheses around it like that, but I think prettier, yeah, when I save it, prettier gets rid of them anyways. All right, so now what we want to do is passport.use, and we want to use our new JWT strategy. So we're actually going to put new JWT strategy, and inside here we pass in our options, and then what we get back is a function that gives us an error. Actually, I'm sorry, not an error. It gives us our payload, our JWT payload, and then done. Okay, so this payload should include the user stuff that we included in our payload here. Where is it? Here. Okay, so I guess I could even show you that. So if we do a console.log of the JWT payload and save, let's see, what are we getting here? Requires a function to retrieve JWT requests. Requires a function. Let's see. Maybe I can't do that. Oh, I misspelled this. It says form request. From request. Save that, see what we get. All right, good. So now the only way that this is going to be used is if we specify it on a certain route. So let's go back to users and let's create a protected route. To do that, we need to bring in passport. Okay, and we'll go down here, and let's actually copy one of these headers. So this will be, let's say, API/users/ let's call it current. We'll have it return the current user, whoever the token belongs to. So let's say return current user, and this will be private. Now we're going to say this is going to be a GET request, router.get, and the URL will be /current. And then what we want to do as a second parameter is we want to add passport.authenticate. We want to pass in here JWT. Okay, that's the method, or the strategy we're using. We also want to put this session false because we're not using session. Okay, so we'll put that. And then after that, we put another parameter, which will be our callback with our request response. Okay, and then we would treat this like any other route, except now it's protected. Now ultimately I want to return the user, but we haven't actually put that in the logic of our passport strategy yet. We're just returning, well actually we are returning the payload. No, we're not returning it, we're just logging it down here. So for now, let's just do res.json, and we'll say message success. Okay, so now let's go to what is this? Postman, and let's try to access users current. Actually, you know what? We'll open up a new tab here. I want to keep this as the login. So we'll open a new tab, GET request, localhost 5000, API users /current, and we get unauthorized, and that's perfect because we didn't send a token to access this private route. This is private. It's unauthorized without the token. All right, so that's exactly what should be happening. Now, if we go to our console here, actually it didn't. I thought that would have ran. Why didn't this run? Oh, because we need our token. That's right. All right, so let's go back and let's get our token. So this actually should still work. I think I set it for what, an hour, so but we could just do it again. So we'll just send this again, and we're gonna grab this whole token right here, because remember, now this is a valid login. That's why I got this. If I were to send something that wasn't a valid login, we wouldn't be able to get this token. So then we'll go back over to where we're trying to access a protected route. We're going to go to headers and add in authorization. Okay, inside authorization value, we're going to paste in our token, and then we're going to send. Okay, now we're not getting anything back, but let's take a look here, down here. Notice that we're logging the payload from the token, which has the ID, the name, the avatar, and then it also adds on the expiration and the oh man, what is this? Issued at. This is the issued at time, and this is the expiration. Okay, so this is actually working perfectly. We didn't get the response yet because we haven't finished this, but you can see it is we're getting the payload from the token. So let's go ahead and finish this. What we want to do is just get the user that's being sent in the token. So remember, we brought in the user model, so we can say user, and I'm going to use find by ID, which is a mongoose method, and we can get that with the JWT payload, which is an object that has the user ID in it. So we can simply do .id. So we're going to find the user by that ID. It'll give us a promise. So in here, we'll get the user. All right, let's check to see if user. All right, now if user means that the user has been found, so we want to then return the done function that is actually passed right here. Okay, and we want to pass into that as a parameter. Whoops, let's pass in two things. The first is an error, which there isn't any, so we're going to say null. Second is going to be the actual user. We're going to return the user. And then we're going to go right underneath, and if the user isn't found, we're still going to return done, and we're still going to return null as the first parameter, but false as the second, because there is no user. Okay, and I think that's good. Let's put a dot catch on here as well. And if there's something goes wrong, then let's log it. Oops. Okay, so now let's save that, and we should be able to make the full request now. So if we keep this token in here, we make our request to the protected route, let's send, success. There we go. Now, the way that we can access the user from that route, instead of sending success, if we want to send the user is now in request.user. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's send request.user. I believe that should be just an object, but yeah, let's try it. Send again. There he is. Okay, so we're sending. Just to reiterate what's going on here, we logged in with this tab, we got the token for this user, then we tried to access a protected route. We first did it without the token. You saw it was unauthorized. Then we added the correct token, and now it's responding with the user. Okay, it's giving us the date, the ID, the name, the email, avatar, and the password. Now, I'm not going to keep this as our response, because we don't want to send like the password. Even though it's a hash, we don't want to send this back ever. So what I'm going to do, we could get rid of this. I don't believe we're going to use this in our application. I'm just doing it as an example. But we could do like just create our own object here and say ID request.user.id. What else? Let's see. We could do, is the name? Yeah, the name's included. So we can say name request.user.name and email. That way we're not actually sending the password. So now let's go back to Postman and send again. And there we go. So now we're just getting the ID, name, and email. All right, so that's how this all works, at least on the back end. We still have our React app to worry about, but this is how we can accept tokens, and we can validate the user. And of course, access our protected routes. Now in the next video, before we're completely done with this and we move on to like the profile routes and model and stuff like that, I want some more validation. So for instance, when we register or log in, and if we send in like a blank email or an email that's not formatted right, I want the correct error back. I want it to say emails required, names required, or email is not formatted correctly, because this stuff is actually going to display inside of our form on our front end. That's how we're gonna do it. So we're gonna do that next, and then we'll move on to the profile and all that stuff.